Good morning on this good Sunday morning. Thank you for getting up, and I know how tempting a Sunday morning in bed is, and you probably all had other nice things to do. So thank you for being here and spending half an hour with us. We try to be fast. I would like to thank, apart from you all being here, I'd like to thank Donald and Eric, who were our co-conspirator in this endeavor. I would like to introduce you to my partner in crime, Jimena Ríos. And Eric, Don, thank you for your time, care. Don, thank you for your vulnerability and that you shared that with us. That was a gift and was really beautiful. Eric, you are always there. What a great friend. I'm going to start with reading a text for you. On my table lies a wooden hand. The hand is a gift from a friend. You could say the hand is badly carved, sloppy, and not anatomically correct. But I think this is the perfect hand. This Brazilian ex-voto is carved by an anonymous man on the street so that when prayers fail, this object encapsulates every bit of longing, hope, and gratitude one could possibly feel. Where language fails me, I make, and language fails me often. Where language fails me and language fails me often, there I make. I stutter in material. Desperation and helplessness manifests itself in the attempt of covering up, layering, repetitive visitation of a surface. I draw comfort from ordinary things, and I aim to share this comfort gained from seemingly mundane objects and shapes, which I put through laboring material transformation. Things are true. The comfort lies in the agency given to a thing. The things which live with me have a life of their own. When I change those lives, mine changes as well. I put them through a process, but each step of the way is a moment of change and alteration. Only I can see what happens. Only I can decide to stop or proceed. There is no efficiency or economic logic of my process. On the contrary, the only aim is to fathom out the everything of this nothingness, and process is often everything. Objects as they live with me chatter and have a sound, a voice, and together they vibrate. I feed into the sound, not knowing where it goes. But I have a sense of tuning it by giving and taking from the material orchestra. I do not read objects, but I do eavesdrop into what they have to say to other things. The distinction of technique, material, and process is so messy and intertwined that I cannot tell one from the other. Making is my sort of prayer. I read this text to you because it accompanied an exhibition Jimena curated in Buenos Aires about 5-6 years ago, and it was an ex-voto exhibition. So what we're going to do here in like the next 10 minutes or so, give you an idea of contemporary jewelry, which is a really broad field, and specifically we want to share with you certain things which hug around the project of Don, which give it a context and gives you a momentary glimpse through the lens through which we actually observe contemporary jewelry and where we find each other in a shared interest in very specific aspects of it.
I met Iris in 2014. She was traveling through South America, searching for ex-votos, and I had just started to become interested in the same topic. Not in the wooden ex-votos from Brazil, but in the metal one from Argentina. This is my collection. For those unfamiliar with this practice, ex-votos have and have historical roots that can be traced back to ancient Egypt and Mesopotamian cultures. Later, they were assimilated in the complex world of Catholicism. The Mediterranean and Central European countries were key cultural settings for the spread and development of this religious practice. From Middle Ages until the first half of 20th century, churches were filled with objects, offerings, and most of them were exvotos, known also as milagros. This is how they arrived in my country, Argentina. To fully understand how it works, exvotos are the material expression of a granted wish, an almost unique display of reciprocity between a saint and a human being. This relationship unfolds in 4 stages: petition, favor granted, creation of the object, and its placement. Here, we see examples of people asking a higher power for something and getting it, like someone praying to get pregnant, or a farmer hoping his cows would reproduce so he could keep his business going. Both of us are very interested in how immediate these exvotos are, and how the maker manages to turn a request into something you can actually see and touch. For example, one woman prayed for her child to be born healthy, and a family hoped their kid could go to school. The details in these exvotos also help us to understand the historical context of a certain place. In this way, the jewelry becomes a tool to read a context of a specific time and culture. The craftsman, the maker, us, has the power to materialize a wish, translating it into something we can hold and offer. Jean-Baptiste Vico wrote that the truth is what has been made, or we can also translate it as truth lies in achievement. According to this, only what is made can be understood, because the act of creating is always intentional and then real. When I explained the stages of this practice, the last one was placement, and I'd like to go back to that point. Exvotos are conceived and come to life when they are left in a public space, like a church. This is a non-possessive practice. They are made to show a proof of a miracle that happened. They are a testimony, and in the case of jewelry, when somebody wears a piece and steps out onto the street, that use becomes a public act too, a kind of confrontation with the people around them. In this photo, we see a jeweler outside a church in northern Argentina, set up in his mobile workshop, ready to take on any request. Exvotos help us understand the power of the jeweler, the social role we have in translating a desire into something material. And it's not necessary to make exvotos specifically. This role is present in wedding rings, special gift, jewelry that turns into amulets. This is our friend Rafa. He passed away 4 years ago. Rafa had a pizzeria. And the night I met Iris, we went to eat in his place. In the back room of his small restaurant, he had a space for his patients, because Rafa was also a healer. He wouldn't charge his healing sessions, but he offered patients the chance to leave an object, something that when he prayed for others would make them present in the space. So the healing energy will reach them. Most of those objects were jewelry, probably because nothing is closer to the body than jewelry. And many of those objects were rosaries, objects that go beyond their materiality and authorship. Hundreds of made-in-China rosaries would accumulate in that room, but each one marked a presence. So jewelry, regardless of who had made it, transformed into a magical object, something that allowed anyone who had ever worn it to be present through it. Manon von Kauswick out of the office series of 100 necklaces made in 2014. Each necklace is made from the plastic casing of a paperclip. Each paperclip is cut into bead length, arranged and strung on cord. All are identically in length, 80 centimeter diameter, and all follow a logic that the artist decided. These made-in-China paperclips, through labor and time invested, turn into a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. Throughout his life, Alfred collected souvenirs from his travels, carefully arranged on small shelves in his home. When he passed away, his children, unable to throw them away, gave them to their neighbor, Juliana García Bello, an Argentinian artist, believing that as an artist, she could give them a new meaning and keep their memory alive. Each piece has been wrapped in linen thread, using a Patagonian basketry technique that weaves the old with the new. These objects hold the memory of Alfred and his wife. They are more than souvenirs, they are reminders of life. Evie, a good friend from Cranbrook, did the same as Juliana's neighbors. When her husband passed away, she brought some of his clothes to the metals department, hoping the students will wear them or transform them into something new. 18 Joan received the ties. For a while, 18 visited Evie, and together they looked through photos of the couple. In every significant moment of their life together, her husband was wearing one of those ties. Using enamel technique, the tie patterns were transferred onto wearable pieces in the form of stones that, when worn by Evie, became living memories, a way to carry her husband with her. This is one example of the project by photographer James Mollison called See the Objects Refugees Carry on Their Journey to Europe. It brings together photos along with the voices of refugees speaking about objects they carry when they migrate. My family gave me this ring. It's from Afghanistan. It's a cross. I'm a Muslim, but I accept Christian prophets. I like to show it. It's also a memory of my family. This is a project by artist Marana. It's an ongoing public participation project held in different countries, creating a written, oral, and photographic record of people's personal connection to the jewelry that they wear. Since 2002, she has asked the question, can you tell us about the jewelry you are wearing? So far, events have been held in 11 countries and over 2,000 people have taken part.
And the beauty lies in the simplicity. I love jewelry. I feel naked if I do not wear my earrings every day. Jewelry complements my clothes. I collect pieces wherever I go. I love interesting earrings in particular. My leaf earrings reflect my interest in nature. They are so light, I hardly feel I am wearing them. But yes, I definitely am. It's a silver baby cross. My sister bought me it when she was 11 at her first Holy Communion from the church that we used to go to when we were children. I never really took it off. A pair of earrings with a pink ball hanging from a wire. The story of these pair of earrings is the need of wearing some color on a very rainy day. I found them in a store where they were sold very cheap.
A wedding ring is a symbol of status and can function as an amulet by connecting the wearer to a system of symbols. This can be a strong bonding agent within a community. The ring becomes a medium of communication. Otto Künzli's necklace, which consists of 48 wedding rings, brings up the question, what happened to the couples who wore them? The hope behind marriage vows to stay together forever, what happened to that? Why aren't they worn anymore? Did the wearers die or get divorced? The wedding ring, which should communicate somebody's status, and at the same time remind the wearer of the event of the wedding, loses this memory function through its absence. Ilse is a reliquary, a portrait of two generations through objects that, in different ways, were intimately connected to their daily lives. Ring is again a new object made from traditional jewelry piece, and a golden tooth from Iris' mother. These examples of contemporary artists confirm that, while our discipline continues to evolve, its evolution is not strictly formal. Artists still rely on classic shapes and believe in the efficiency of the communication system behind archetypical jewelry.
And I would like to continue with yet another archetypical object. What you see here is an ex voto, so that is an original one. And we took this hand as a symbol of care, caregiving, receiving and giving. for the hand medal project. We started the hand medal project in 2020, when in March we realized that COVID would be with us for a while. And I had a background as a nurse, so I particularly must say I could see how much it would affect the life of every caregiver. So Jimena and I started a project which is called Hand Medal Project, as it is a medal handed out to healthcare workers. We started with a template. It was totally democratic. Everybody did it with the means they had, whether it was silver, copper, or brass. It was a fast-spreading network through the world, and within 6 months, it spread through 62 countries, and we reached ultimately 70,000 healthcare workers. We were depending on a community, friends, and that everybody made use of what they have, their hands, in order to thank people who gave us their hands to take care for us. So this medal, this based on an ex voto, gives you another idea of how much a very archetypal object gains meaning through a process, through being given, because each of those 70,000 doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers have the same hand, but yet that hand has been made by somebody, and yet this hand is given by them. Healthcare workers would give them to each other, so it was not the artist who would give it, but they were sharing that moment in time and honored each other and together. And what you see, if we go one image back, these were all the countries, so you see the world here, and all the countries which have hands were involved and participated in this project. What you see here is a sort of selection of the hands which were made. We asked the makers if they could spare one extra piece with us. We attached those to a big sheet. We did not want to exhibit them. We did not want to treat them as commodities, but we wanted to have the shared energy and the spirit of all of them actually joined together. So in 23, we visited with the department and friends, and Donald and Eric were also present. We visited Buenos Aires and Salta. A friend of us had a small chapel on her land, and if you see this land, that indeed is the land of a friend. So we folded up all those hands together, all the energy, all those stories, all those lives, and carried this package to a small chapel in a cave. So here you see where we brought it, we folded it up, we left it there to comfort passers-by, but also to sort of sit within its energy for the end of days. So thinking about jewelry, and as we very often would like to sort of make a small round here. Contemporary jewelry very often is an object which is born by the maker, but very often it is also an object which is filled and occupied with private and personal information, whether it's sculpture-like or it is based on a narrative. We recently, or in the last few years, sort of got more and more interested and turned more and more to the piece of jewelry, which is that archetypical piece, which gains through the ritual, which becomes meaningful because you do introduce it to life, because you give it to other people, because you keep it in your pocket, because you find it in a box from your grandmother that traveled through generations. So in order and inspired by our project and observing Donald, we designed is a weird word. I think it's not getting out of my mouth. But we came up with this theory of jewelry where you basically have pieces which are combined. They indicate that they are the union of two people, whether it's mother and daughter, two friends, sisters, siblings, brothers, father and daughters, So what you see here is one of those rings which is wearable by a child and a grown-up at the same time. There's a moment as a child where you can wear it, and then you can wear it later on and pass it on to another person. So this is the combination of two rings in different phases of a human life. I wear a ring on my little finger. It belonged to my mother. I never take it off because it is a presence on my hand of her hands. In truth, the ring is not hers, it is mine. It is not hers because she is dead. It is not hers because she gave it to me. It is not hers because she no longer wore the rings. It is not hers because I have never seen it on her hand. It is mine because it fits me. It is mine because it is a little loose. It is mine because I never take it off. John Berger. And here you see some images of generations, mother and son. And this is our little model who was here, and we could hear her again, mother and daughter. Friends, but you could also call them sisters. Sorry. The act of giving and sharing, and you can probably see that it is one chain which is separated in two. And here we have a really beautiful mother, daughter, and soon granddaughter. And look here at this beautiful couple of son and mother. I didn't know that before the photo shoot, but they're now united forever as mother and son. And these are the pieces. Mundane pieces which, again, become by being introduced to the circle of life. And now we would like to talk about the project which brings you all here today. In 23, Jimena and I met and saw, we knew Donald, but we saw Donald in a public space wearing a piece of jewelry he once gave to his wife, Anne. This big man, not necessarily normally wearing exotic or extravagant clothes, looked vulnerable and soft, and showed something we never show in these times or hardly ever see. It is the fact that we walk through the world missing somebody terribly and nobody knows. We asked him if we could make a book about him wearing the jewelry. He had given over a period of 37 years to his wife, who had passed 2 years before. We asked Donald to go into this endeavor with us. So here you see Eric in the photo shoot. We spent a lot of time looking at all the jewelry, listening to their stories. But you can also read their stories or the reason why they were given, those moments in time of a shared relationship. It was on a silent Sunday afternoon that we took those photos. And there was a lot of, as I said, vulnerability, openness, and it felt very much like a celebration of a life. I think this photo speaks for itself. You see them both wearing the same piece of jewelry. As soon as we sat down, all the things on the table seemed like precious forms of silence. Our pairs of hands began to enter the tablecloths. They seemed like natural inhabitants of the table. I couldn't stop thinking about the life of hens. Many years ago, some hens had forced these objects on the table to take shape. Any of them would pour food on the smooth and shiny faces of the plates. They would force the jugs to fill and spill their hips, and the utensils to sink into the meat, break it apart, and carry the pieces to the mouth. Some of these beings might survive many pairs of hands. Some of them would be good with them, love them, and fill them with memories. But they would have to keep serving in silence. Felisberto Hernandez.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.